To the US now, and Donald Trump and Joe Biden are making last-ditch efforts to win the support of voters in key battleground states in the Midwest. The president is holding rallies in Michigan, Wisconsin and Minnesota. Biden's schedule takes in Wisconsin, Minnesota and Iowa. 4 days out, and 82 million people have already cast their ballots. For more on this story, let's cross over live to our reporter, Andy Rosejan. Andy, for US President Donald Trump, it's all about the economy. He's now trying to latch on to figures to say that the economy is rebounding despite the pandemic, and yet he's trailing Biden in the polls. Does he hope that by clinging on to these economic forecasts and figures, that will be enough to tip him back into 4 more years of power?
He certainly hopes so. He's banking on that, Ollie. But what a contrast today here in Wisconsin. Biden's event here in Milwaukee will be mask mandated and socially distanced, and less than 100 people, as are the rules here in Milwaukee. That's why President Trump was denied permission to hold a rally here a few days ago. So his rally today in Wisconsin, a couple hours from here, will be large. About thousands of people, possibly, nobody wearing a mask, nobody social distancing. And the Biden camp thinks this is a good message for them because the coronavirus is on fire in Wisconsin right now, Ollie. The number of hospitalizations, cases, and deaths have reached their peak, particularly in the area where Trump will be today. So that's the message that Biden is still pushing, that Trump's handling of the coronavirus will hurt him at the polls.
You know, Michigan and Wisconsin, they're usually always voting for the Democrats. Why is Trump visiting these places? And are they going to stay with the Democrats, or is there a chance that he could actually flip them here?
Well, he actually flipped them the last time, Ollie, in 2016, barely beating out Hillary Clinton in both Wisconsin and Michigan. That's because he crisscrossed both states by the end, holding these big rallies, whereas Hillary Clinton barely campaigned in both of those states. And Trump is hoping to replicate that now. So there is at least this appearance right now in Wisconsin that there's an enthusiasm gap between the two campaigns. And I asked a Biden supporter about that.
Andy Rosejan joining us there. Thank you very much indeed. Well, our international affairs reporter, Valerie Goriat, is in the studio to talk about the future of trade between the US and Europe. Thanks very much for joining us, Valerie.
Thank you, Oliver.
Is it likely that things are going to be different if Joe Biden takes office?
Well, on the economic side, it's not likely that if Donald Trump is elected, it's not likely to change. He's not likely to change his mind over, very aggressive and punitive tariff policies he's led towards the EU for a while. He has described the European Union as the #1 foe of the United States, and that was 2 years ago when he launched a steel tariffs war against the EU, which also counterattacked. Then last year there was he built up on the long-running dispute over subsidies to Boeing and Airbus, and he got the WTO, the World Trade Organization, to allow the US to deploy punitive tax worth about $7.5 billion on European products such as French, Spanish or German wine, cheese, and even Scottish whiskey. And then the story rebounded when the WTO, in turn, allowed the EU to tax the US for an amount of about $4 billion on American goods in retaliation over subsidies to Boeing. Plus, there are serious disputes over European plans to tax US tech giants, and Donald Trump is not really is not happy at all about that. But then, if Joe Biden is elected, things could improve a little. He's expected to let go on a number of tax wars, but he's going to have a hard time letting go on the digital taxes, for instance, as explained. US trade policy expert I interviewed in my report.